You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere. This is your WXCO Daily News Roundup for Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 FM and 1230 AM in Wausau.
For WXCO News, I'm Brittany Merlot. Protesters in Wisconsin Rapids braved Sunday's soaring temperatures to react to the U.S. bombings in Iran. Melissa Kay reports.
They held signs reading, "Diplomatic talks, not war," "Love your neighbor," and "No more endless wars." The organizer said it was a spur-of-the-moment call to action, and she was happy with the turnout on such a hot day.
I just was furious about this bombing of Iran, and I think it's the wrong thing to do. We're going to pay for this. Trump has repeatedly said that he was going to have peace on day one in Ukraine, and he was going to take care of the problem in the Middle East. And I think instead of taking care of it, he has just made it worse.
Another attendee said it reminded her of when President Bush said there were weapons of mass destruction and we went to war, and they found out later it was a lie. She said so many people died because of the lies, and she just has a feeling that this is more lies and military boys wanting to play with their big toys.
And a Republican state lawmaker is sponsoring a constitutional amendment to introduce terms on elected state positions, limiting elected officials to serving only 8 years in a single position. And the Wisconsin Department of Health Services is assuring us that hospitals are required to provide life-saving abortion care when necessary. The reassurance comes following a statement by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services that rescinds previous guidance on enforcing the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. DHS Secretary Kirsten Johnson says the update to federal guidance will not change the requirement in Wisconsin, and hospitals are still obligated to offer necessary emergency care. A group of lawmakers helping people facing deportation wants to grow amid increased deportations from the Trump administration. Savannah Tomei-Olson reports.
Grant Sovereign is the president of the board of the Community Immigration Law Center. Essentially, the people there work like public defenders for folks who need immigration lawyers. Technically, immigration offenses are civil, not criminal.
We all know what a public defender is. If you can't afford one, you certainly shouldn't go to jail simply because you can't afford a lawyer. But that's exactly what happens in the immigration context, is you can sit in detention, which is a jail, for 6 months, a year, 18 months.
They've been busy since the Trump administration ramped up efforts to deport people and deport them quickly. The only ICE detention facility in Wisconsin is in Juneau.
All of their 200 beds seem to be full with immigrants these days.
Silk exists to make sure everyone gets due process.
We have rules. We all want the rules to apply to everybody, but we all want those rules to apply evenly, and not just because you can afford a lawyer, you can't afford a lawyer, or there aren't enough available. In Wisconsin, there's probably maybe 10 or 15 lawyers who know how to do deportation defense because it hasn't been an issue before.
Now, Silk wants to expand and be able to help more people.
We would like to be a public defender service for the whole state. We have 6 lawyers now who spend weekends and nights trying to help people.
The Community Immigration Law Center is holding a fundraiser with a matching grant from the Madison Community Foundation. The goal is to raise $100,000 in June. We'll have a link at civicmedia.us.
Braden's law advances in the legislature. Joanne Krulotz explains.
The Wisconsin State Assembly passes legislation known as Braden's Law to strengthen penalties for people found guilty of sextortion. Mosinee Republican Representative Brent Jacobson co-authors the bill and says the legislature had the opportunity to respond to the despicable people doing this to Wisconsin children and send a clear message that they need to stay away from the children in Wisconsin. The bill, which now goes to the state Senate, is named after Braden Bone. The Wausau area 15-year-old died by suicide in March after falling victim to a sextortion scheme. Under the bill, perpetrators could be charged with felony murder if a victim commits suicide.
And Republican state lawmakers have proposed legislation that would change the way the school voucher program is funded. The bill would use the state's general purpose revenue to fund school vouchers rather than state aid and local property taxes. They say it would provide property tax relief to residents and could increase state funding for public schools. Critics of the proposal, including Governor Tony Evers, raised concerns about the possibility of choice schools receiving more funding than the state's public schools. And the state legislature voted to advance a bill that would classify drivers for delivery and rideshare apps as independent contractors. The legislation is aimed at allowing those drivers to access a statewide benefits portal, which employers could contribute to health care and retirement accounts. Critics of the bill say those companies are not required to make contributions to the portal, so the included benefits for the drivers are not guaranteed. Union officials also oppose the bill, saying drivers deserve baseline employment standards, like minimum wage. After the Minnesota political shootings, state lawmakers may now be looking at the security of the Capitol building. Joanne Krulotz reports.
At the Capitol, legislative leaders are taking a cautious approach to increase in security following the assassination of Minnesota lawmaker. This is Assembly Speaker Robin Vos.
The thing that's most scary is this didn't occur in a Capitol. It occurred at someone's home. So the idea of trying to make the Capitol into a fortress, I don't know if that necessarily would even have ever done anything in this situation.
Vos said Assembly lawmakers will discuss security issues, something echoed by Minority Leader Greta Neubauer.
We're not going to comment at this point on specific security measures, but are open to longer-term conversations to ensure that everyone feels safe.
The Capitol building has 12 public entrances on 2 levels. Following the 2011 Act 10 protests, public access was briefly limited with metal detectors placed at a pair of ground floor entrances.
It's Dairy Month. Lisa Hale has the details.
The dairy industry contributes over $50 billion of economic impact in the state and supports over 120,000 jobs. Wisconsin has more dairy farms than any other state in the country, and about 80% of the milk produced here is exported. About 20% of Wisconsin's milk products are exported internationally.
And the city of Superior has brought in goats to help manage the spread of an invasive plant species in Billings Park. Now, as the goat grazes, it's going to manage the vegetation that's become increasingly popular over recent years. It's intended to help protect the soil, water, and wildlife in the areas where invasive species need to be dealt with. I'm Brittany Merlot for WXCO.
Game 2 of the Pirates and the Crew. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball. Game 2 of a 3-game series going on tonight in Milwaukee as the Brewers host the Pirates. Pittsburgh with a clutch 5-4 win last night over Milwaukee. Don Kelly is the Pirates' new manager. He took over last month after Derek Shelton was fired. I asked Kelly how they finally got a win on the road after losing 6 of their last 8 games.
The bullpen coming in behind each other. We get up 3-0. They score 2. We score 2. They tie it. Just back and forth on the road against, good Brewers team, and everybody contributed, stepped up. It was a great team win.
Brewers manager Pat Murphy after the loss.
Yeah, unusual game, huh? How unusual was that? Every little falls foul by an inch, and Durbin steals the base and then overslides. It's one of those days.
Basketball, the NBA draft is tomorrow night. The Bucks have just 1 pick in the second round. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. The box office saw a repeat champion from last week, a new horror flick that came in right at expectations, and one that absolutely flopped, coming in way under expectations. How to Train Your Dragon brought in $37 million this past weekend, giving it a domestic total of $160 million. With Danny Boyle back in the director's chair, 28 years later brought in a very respectable $30 million at the gate and an additional $30 million overseas, putting it on pace to be the highest-grossing film by far of the franchise. There was not so great news, though, for Pixar's Elio. The film turned out to have the lowest opening ever for a Pixar film, bringing in just $21 million at the box office. Lilo and Stitch is holding fast and brought in about $10 million over the weekend, which is nearing $1 billion worldwide. More big releases right around the corner. If you're looking for something to see in the theaters, here's one of Pete's picks. 28 Years Later is really good. I'm not typically a zombie movie person, but the third installment of this riveting and at times gruesome franchise, in my opinion, is the best one so far. The film opens on a small island with people who have survived the rage virus and starts with a father and son going to the mainland. They barely make it back, but the son decides to take his mother back to the mainland after learning there is a doctor there who could possibly cure her unknown illness. If you like zombies or just great suspense, check it out. Speaking of the undead, Norman Reedus' The Walking Dead spin-off Daryl Dixon has a third season headed our way. The Walking Dead has birthed many undead spin-offs, and Daryl Dixon might be its most critically favored to date. Season 3 drops September 7th on AMC. The rich don't always get richer, just ask Barbra Streisand, who claims to have been grossly underpaid for her role as Roz Fokker, Greg Fokker's mom in Meet the Fockers and Little Fockers. The 83-year-old Oscar winner says she was really ticked off when she found out that Dustin Hoffman, who plays her husband in the films, made $7.5 million, and she was paid a paltry $7 million. If you're scoring at home, Hoffman has 2 Oscars for acting. Streisand has only 1. It's a bit unfair, but not like she'll have to supplement her income with a paper route. Just saying. Weekend 1 is in the books, but you still have 2 more weekends to check out Summerfest in 2025. Shows resume this Thursday, June 26th, with acts like Willie Porter, the Psychedelic Furs, Local H, Billy Corgan and the Machines of God, the Mavericks, and the Killers. Summerfest takes place over 3 weekends, this being the second, so you still have lots of time to see some great music. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Partly to mostly cloudy today with an isolated shower or thunderstorm possible this afternoon. We'll get to around 78 for a high today. Tonight, partly cloudy this evening with clouds increasing and an isolated shower after midnight or low 60. Tomorrow, scattered thunderstorms with a high in the mid-70s. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 68.
That's your WXCO Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at bullfallsradio.com. The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.